Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today we've got a special guest, a real, well, I mean, somebody who is now a legend on and off the pitch because we're so well known for Frankie and Danny covering the club. But we've got Danny Collins here, one of my favourite former players, to talk all things Sunderland this season. Danny, how are you doing at the moment? What's happening with you?
I'm not too bad, Connor, thanks. Just obviously at the game at the weekend, and Sunderland have had a pretty good start, so all good at this moment in time. And yeah, from my point of view, obviously we're not doing the commentary this year, but contributing in the lounges alongside Frankie. But yeah, no, all good, enjoying it.
Are you missing the commentary? Are you missing doing what? Because you and Frankie had that post-match show, which I used to, obviously I was normally at the game, so I never used to watch the pre-match, but I always watched the post-match the next day when it went up on the YouTube channel. Are you missing doing things like that? Do you want to get back into that punditry space, so to speak?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we've done it, was it 6-7 seasons, obviously from League One and going through COVID, where we were in the stadium, basically me and him, and on the gantry with a 46,000 empty seats. So it wasn't enjoyable at that times. But obviously, as you say, the club's now got themselves, well, firstly back into the Championship and then obviously back into the Premier League. So yeah, you do miss it, of course. It's good, down pitch side as we were for the pre-match show for home games, and then obviously the full commentary and then debriefing the game after. So yeah, but it's come to an end at this moment in time. But yeah, we moved on, and I am missing it, and I'm looking at one or two other avenues at this moment in time, and getting one or two bits lined up in the next week or two. So yeah, all good.
And I want to talk a little bit about before we get into Sunderland now, that playoff run, because you and Frankie, you went viral a little bit for the coverage. Frankie went viral, particularly for the Dan Ballard header against Coventry. We actually have a question here that says, one thing that stays in my head rent-free is Frankie's scream when Ballard heads home in the playoff semi-final. What was it like being in the room with him? I mean, was it carnage? I presume you were on the gantry.
Yeah, we were on the gantry, yeah. So obviously right on the halfway line. We tend to have a little monitor with us as well for replays. And we have a stool, which we don't really sit on. We just have our pad there with the notes and the lineups and a few bits and bobs on. And then as, we get into that last minute, because they'd had a couple of opportunities. We had the counter and we get the corner. And I think we're sort of looking at each other thinking, could we really? And then obviously Big Dan pops up with the header. And then Frankie's up on the chair. He's away there. He's up on the chair, screaming away, isn't he? And then I've gone as well a little bit, but then I thought, well, we're live. We're obviously trying to broadcast on behalf of the club, so we've got to try and talk through it as well at the same time. So, but no, it's unbelievable scenes, wasn't it? You couldn't write it. I think someone said if you took that to Hollywood, really, it's probably a little bit far fetched. And then obviously getting onto Tommy's goal as well at Wembley 10 days or so later. But no, it's fantastic, and I've only ever witnessed the stadium as a player, probably when Kieran scored that free kick against Newcastle, where I was right behind him on the halfway line when he hit it, and then the noise in there, and that obviously matched it. And then that's me seeing it from the other side of the white line as well, and witnessing it, and yeah, lump in your throat stuff, and unbelievable scenes.
Yeah, it was wild. Before we get into the proper thing of the show, I just wanted to plug, I have written a book, which is available on ALS now. So it's a Sunderland crossword book, and there we are. There's looking at the League One days in there and all sorts. So if people are interested, I'll put the link in the description. But that came from being made redundant this summer, Danny, and I went absolutely bananas because I didn't have anything to do for so I was made redundant, and then you've got like a period of a month where you can't do anything. You can't you can apply for jobs, but you can't do a lot. And I was like, right, I'm going to write a book. So I spent a lot of my summer writing a crossword puzzle book.
Going through some of the players we had in the League One days there.
Oh yeah, I went all the way back, largely 70s onwards. I think before 1970s. I mean, that's obviously well before my era. So yeah, you've probably a few answers in here, Danny. I would guess we've got sections on Steve Bruce, who obviously was your last manager at Sunderland, Roy Keane as well, Mick McCarthy. So we touched on all the main ones post 2000. So there we are. But let's talk about Sunderland. Let's talk about the transfer window to begin with, and I want to compare and contrast between Sunderland this summer, where they brought in a lot of players, and then 07-08 when you're at Sunderland under Roy Keane, and we have another like mammoth summer where we sign loads of new players. And I want to know what it's like from a player's perspective, because there must be two ways of looking at it. Like, number one, you've been in that 05-06 team that didn't recruit very well and gets relegated with 15 points is seen as, an embarrassment. Then in 07-08, the club go bananas. They sign loads of players, loads of exciting players, break the goalkeeping transfer record. And you must then have a bit of anxiety as maybe about people stealing your spot. You know, are people going to take what you've earned over the previous season? So what's it like sort of in that dressing room when this kind of transfer window happens?
Yeah, I think first up, I think the club obviously needed to recruit in the scale in which they did. Really, I think the lads were great last year, got us over the line, and as I said there, we didn't actually tear away and finish 15 points ahead of everyone last season. We came in through the back door in the playoffs, so the club straight away have looked at that and thinking, well, if we're going up, the recruitment team, Christian, they've all come together. I'm guessing they've right. Which way are we going about this now? We're getting to the Premier League. It was 8 seasons I think we had outside the top flight. We're finally back there, and how are we going to go and recruit now? But yeah, to bring the amount of bodies in which they are, I think it's 15, but obviously Mark Guiu going back to Chelsea, so 14 players coming in, and then you've got to look at it from the current squad. As I said, the lads who got us up back into the Premier League, and it's a tough world, the football world, and you probably look at Dan Neil as being your prime example. For Dan to be at the club, obviously 7-year-old coming right through the ranks and feeling like he's earned the right, with the armband on as well, and being a big part of us getting promoted. And then all of a sudden, a couple of months later, the armband's taken off him. Granit Xhaka walks in through the door, taking his position really. And then Dan's, not part of it on that first opening game of the season. And he came on obviously at the weekend, but he'll be feeling a little bit disheartened, I'm sure. And it's a tough world, as I say. But you're asking me how did I feel in being in that position where you've been a part of a championship side that gets you promoted, and it's coming. You're obviously looking. You've got to strengthen, and players coming in through the door. You look at it from two ways. You sort of, oh well, he's bringing players in my position. That's the end of me. Or do you roll your sleeves up and think, well, I'm not going to give up the shirt that easy. If I'm a centre back or a left back, and a left back's walking in through the door, I'd say, well, okay, then let's bring it on. Really, let's have a challenge and go out on the training pitch and show the manager really, yes, I know you're bringing competition in my position, but I don't want to give up the shirt too easy, and I'm going to fight for it.
In terms of then, we'll go at the current day. Are you surprised about how much business was done? Because in my head, when I left Wembley on whatever day, the 24th of May, I think it was 25th of May, something.
Yeah, 24th. Yeah.
Yeah, we beat Sheffield United, and I'm driving home that night, and I'm talking to the people I'm in the car with, and we're talking about transfer business, and I'm thinking we probably need to add 5 or 6 to the spine. That's probably what I was expecting. We'll spend maybe 60 to 80 million. We'll be a bit cautious because we don't want to, overspend and take the risk of coming down to the championship and having to totally offload your whole squad. So I was expecting 5 or 6 players for somewhere up to £100 million. And what we got was, like, as you said, 14, I think, for 180-ish million.
Yeah.
That's crazy. What was your view on that? Are you surprised at what we did?
Yes, I'd probably say, like yourself, I was sort of at the end of the season, and straight away you're obviously weighing it up, and I'm sure the fans did as well. Right, what positions do we think we need to strengthen? Is he going to be able to make the step up? And naturally, that's what you do in the process. And I probably said 6 to 7. I probably said, we'll probably get 6 to 7, and then you're hoping that 1 or 2, like Trey Hume, Dan Ballard are getting the opportunity. Obviously, Chris Rigg at the weekend as well. Can these boys make the step up? But straight away they were in early, making the signings, and I think that's the right way to go about it. Because I've always thought, if I was to go into management, which way would I want the recruitment team to back me really? And I think you wanted to get your business done early. I know lads are going away on holidays. You have World Cups and Euros and everything that comes into place, and obviously the AFCON from our point of view. But I think get the players in early, get them used to the way the manager wants to work. His methods on the training ground, and obviously for the lads that are there as well, they're in the training ground. It's like a revolving door, and they probably feel like the new lads in the training ground really, because every locker's getting changed. The names at the training ground are getting taken out, and new names are coming in, and can imagine it was hectic down there, and not social media as we see in this day and age. Every other day it seems to be a new face coming into the building, so the fans are trying to keep up with the amount of players that are coming in. And then the next step then is obviously, can they gel, can they settle in early? Sometimes it obviously takes players, language barrier, moving away from home, ages, 17, 18-year-old lads, first time coming into English football. There's all sorts that has to go into it, the process. But you're looking at it from how the lads have come in, and we're sat 7th in the table, so a lot of the boys have come in and taken to the Premier League straight away. But yeah, that business for me needed to be done, and I think it's obviously showing the rewards from the signings they've made now.
Yeah, I think for me, I felt like it was going to be a big summer when I saw a goalkeeper being like the number one sort of early doors. We were targeting Petrovic and that Bulgar, and then we bring in Robin Roofs eventually. But I was like, oh wow, okay. So I thought goalkeeper they might have trusted Patterson, but they've actually went no, we need to get another player in there to maybe push Patterson or, as we've seen, take the number one spot. To me, that was when I thought, oh, this is different. £25 million, which was talked about for Petrovic, they're going to spend big on that position. That means that players that I thought are going to get given a chance, maybe not, because they're going to replace a keeper that I think's done okay.
Yeah.
That to me was the sign that things were going to be a little bit different this summer. I don't know if you felt like that with.
Yeah, again, I'll just mention Dan Neil, but Pato's in a similar boat, really, isn't he? Again, been at the club for the years, and I mean, you go back to the playoff final, that save he made after a minute off Kiefer Moore's header, ridiculous save, and he played his part as well. But then, do the club think he's ready to make the step up? And it's tough, as you say. Be sat on the bench now, thinking, I've done really well last season. I've played a massive part and contributed to us getting back to the Premier League, and I'm not given the opportunity. And it's a tough school in the goalkeepers union as well, because naturally as an outfield player you might cover one or two positions where you may get opportunities, but for him being the keeper, if Roofs has obviously come in and he's taken the gloves straight away, unless he's having 3 or 4 games where he's not quite at it or he picks up an injury, then naturally Pato's not going to get a run out as he maybe in the cups. And go back to the Palace game as well, he was fantastic. We come away with a clean sheet, and he was the big part of that. Obviously, man of the match on the day, made 3 or 4 outstanding saves, and like the centre backs and 1 or 2 others, he certainly settled in well, hasn't he, early on?
So let's talk about the start of the season. Then we touched on the Palace game, but I want to go to sort of ask you about, you've been in, as we said at the start, 2 newly promoted Sunderland teams, which is unique because they are the last 2 newly promoted Sunderland teams in the Premier League before this one. What were the messages like from Mick, McCarthy and Roy Keane before the season started? What was the feeling? Because I imagine it was different with, look, McCarthy and that 05-06 team, as a fan, even the most optimistic fan, was looking at it going, is John Stead going to score us the 10 goals that we need? And turns out, no, he wasn't. We were looking at players like Christian Bessier coming in, who the greatest will, when you saw him play, like, I don't think he's a Premier League central midfielder. It must have been maybe slightly different. Maybe Mick McCarthy's team, it was let's just hope for the best. And the Roy Keane, it felt like they'd given Roy Keane and his management team the resources to actually build a team capable of surviving the Premier League. But what do you remember from coming up with them and what they were saying before the season started?
Yeah, exactly that, really. I think if you're looking at Mick, it was tough because he didn't really get the backing, did he, at the time? Let's be honest. As you say there, I think Steady didn't score his first goal. It was Everton away, I think he scored, didn't he?
Yeah.
15 games into the season or something. And it was tough. I think that season, obviously remembering back, and it's a long time ago now, we obviously went down on 15 points, but I don't think there were too many hide-ins in there. There was a lot of maybe 2-1s or 1-0s, wasn't there? So, but obviously if you're not scoring goals, you're not going to win games of football. So as disappointing as it was, and then you flip that onto Roy, and then Roy got obviously a lot more backing from the board, didn't he? And bringing the players in, which the club felt we needed to, and to give us an opportunity at staying in the league and obviously building. And we obviously managed to do that. And then numerous managers come in after there, and they had a good stint in the Premier League up until 8 years ago when they came down, and down to League One on the bounce, wasn't it? So that was obviously disappointing, and it was a long time sort of in the wilderness. I know obviously Regis has come in and followed up, and then he's had a lot more backing than what Roy did as well. But times have changed, and the inflation on players now. You see what you have to pay for. If you're looking at, say, what your class is an average signing these days in the Premier League, you're looking at 20 odd million, aren't you? So that's the sort of money which is having to be spent now to give you an opportunity at staying in the top flight.
Yeah, I mean, I remember, did Stoke pay about £5 million for you? Is that roughly the fee?
I think it was about 3.5. Yeah, I think Sunderland paid about 180,000, and then
What I wonder what that would be with inflation now. How much you would have went for?
Do you know what? Yeah, I was speaking to someone the other week actually, and they were asking a similar question, and they sort of figured it out, and they said about 18 million or something like that. So
wow.
So
there you are. So you're basically a £20 million defender. That's basically what you're saying.
Yeah, well, I didn't get the wages to match that either. So
you're just born like 15 years too early.
That's the one, yeah.
And the thing is now, I mean, I want to talk about this sort of the evolution of how football's changed. I think that football in the last couple of years has actually reverted back to being a bit similar to your era of playing. I think we had that Pep Guardiola era where he dominated. Everyone's trying to play out from the back. Everyone's trying to do that tiki-taka. But now, I mean, you look at the way Sunderland played at the weekend, you would have fit into that Sunderland team absolutely perfectly, wouldn't you? Like the long throws going in the box, physical. I'm talking about even the attacking side of the game. Like you would have been a threat on all the set pieces and stuff. It's very interesting how football, it seems to be going back. I don't know if you feel that. Maybe it's me looking at it from a non-analytical eye, but I feel like football's swinging back to, do you know what? We'll lump it in the box. We'll go long. We'll play percentages maybe more so than we will just trying to pass it around the midfield.
No, I think so. I think, as you said there, going back to when Pep first came over here, and then you've got your inverted fullbacks. And if you go back to my time when I signed at Sunderland, a lot of people wouldn't know what an inverted fullback was. It was generally your 4-4-2. Could be Stephen Wright getting the ball out wide to whoever's out on that right-hand side and get a ball in the box with a right footer on the right-hand side, and obviously Julio or whoever down the left, Andy Welsh, or a natural winger on his natural foot. And then everything seems to change over the last few years. And then, as you said, certainly this season, even kickoffs now where they're touching it back and shelling it out for a throw in the corner, boxing a team in the corner. That's proper old school football. Not sure I'm a big fan of that, because I always think you've got possession on the halfway line and you're giving the ball up. So, but yeah, people are obviously trying different things. And I think with Pep changing football in the way he did, and it even filtered down to the leagues, because obviously I finished up, down at Grimsby in League Two. I think you've still got teams there trying to pop it out with splitting the centre backs in the 6-yard box. And, and you're thinking, well, there's a reason that they're doing it at the top flight, because they've got top players who can do that. Now you've got a big 6'5" bruiser who's a right-footed centre-back playing on the left. He's not going to be keen getting the ball off his goalkeeper and getting pressed by a couple of centre-forwards, is he? So, but teams that obviously were looking at that thinking, we'll have a go at that. But now, as you say, 4-4-2s are coming back into it a little bit more and, going a little bit more direct. And, even watching the game Saturday for me, and I'm thinking first 25 minutes, it was a bit pedestrian. I think it was a bit shadow boxing. We had a bit of possession, and it was almost, as you said there, I could probably play now in that first 25 minutes, because there wasn't any tempo to the game. It was up until Reinildo sending off, really. I thought, that kicked the crowd into gear, and then it got a little bit feisty for 10, 15 minutes or so. But yeah, there's obviously different ways of winning games of football. And, we had the likes of Sam Allardyce, who was renowned maybe for playing his 4-4-2, and your Sean Dyches of the world, really, who a little bit old school. But, if you're winning games of football, there's nothing wrong with that.
No, that is very true. And last reference back to Euro 7 or 8 days, there were 9 home games that season, which is pretty much how we stayed up, wasn't it? It was the home form. I think we won 2 away right at the back end of the season to sort of solidify it. But is that still, the blueprint to follow? Do you think Sunderland have to win somewhere in the region of 8 to 10 home games and pick up just a couple of results on the road? Do you think that is what they'll be targeting? Because I think when I've saw us at Palace, for example, and even at Burnley to a lesser extent, but at Palace, we were like, we're happy with the point. We'll take a set piece goal, but we're happy with the point. And then at home, we went for it a little bit more. We looked much more aggressive in our attacking and trying to get the game. Do you think that that's what they've done? They went, right, we need to win the home games, away games, every point's just a bonus.
I think generally that's the way you set your stall out at the start of the season, especially 45,000 Sunderland fans at the stadium getting behind the lads. But you've got to give them something to go out as well. As I say, set the tempo, and your feet, that filters back from the crowd. I think shot on target early on, a nice flow move which results in an opportunity. But then going away from home, yes, you've got to respect the opposition and who you're coming up against as well. But you expect to have 1 or 2 moments in the game, and I think I said it yesterday, actually, that's not a disappointment, but the 180 minutes we've played so far, Burnley and at Palace as well, we've had 1 shot on target so far. That was obviously the Mayenda opportunity, which he should have scored from, really. Other than that, we haven't had a shot. So, yeah, it's great going away from home. And as they say, the lads got the clean sheet at Selhurst Park, defended really well, organised, which we have been throughout the season so far, really. But you've also got to have that threat on the counter-attack as well. Nothing wrong with picking up a point away from home, of course, but sometimes if you have those 0-0s or the 1-1s and you're getting back on the bus and you thought, could we be a little bit more adventurous? That might happen throughout the course of the season moving forward. But first up is, certainly is don't get beat on the road. And if you can nick 3 points, that's a bonus as well. And then you get back to the stadium alighting make it a bit of a fortress. And what have we taken 7 points out of 9 so far, haven't we? So that's a fantastic return.
And looking at the Villa game, I want to talk about the Reinildo red card, mainly to ask sort of how that happens on the pitch. I don't know if you ever had this happen to you where you've had like a rush of blood to the head and you've tried to kick someone. But for me, I don't understand how a professional footballer who's 31 with VAR watching and all that stuff, how it enters the head to do something as stupid as that. I mean, and also, what's the reaction in the dressing room, do you think, to him doing that? Or what's your take on that whole situation?
Yeah. So first up, I don't think he is thinking. It's sort of like it happens before you've thought about what's happening. So if you look at it again, I don't think Matty Cash has done a lot. He's just lent into him a little bit, and he's obviously reacted, and I think it is ascended up first off. It's soft, but he's straight legged him, hasn't he, around the nether regions there, and you've got Regis is standing 2 yards away. The fourth official's there. You've got VAR, everything. So people are going to say, "What's he doing?" Well, he hasn't thought about what he's doing. Exactly that, and it's not as if he's a young lad as well. If it's Talby or Chris Rigg heating the moment, then you say, no, he's inexperienced. He'll learn from it. Ronaldo's one of the senior pros out there as well, isn't he? So he'll have, got back in the change room. I've been that, I think I was sent off 4 or 5 times in my career. Nothing like that. It was maybe a late challenge, running through on goal, those types of challenges, really, 2 yellow cards. But he'll have been back in the change room and first up thinking, what have I done? I've let my teammates down. And then he's probably thinking, I hope they bail me out, really. In worst case, they come away with a point. So they've managed to do that. And obviously, you go back to the Brentford game as well, where he had that lapse where he made the foul, didn't he, off the corner. The rugby tackle at the far post gives the penalty away. So he's had a couple of moments now, and you hope that he does learn from it. He's not a young lad, so he should be more experienced. And Regis, I'm sure the staff will say, come on, let's get yourself. Because I think he's been a decent signing. I've talked about the centre-back pairing have been fantastic. I think even for 20 minutes at the weekend, I thought he was probably one of our better players. He was galloping down the left-hand side, trying to get forward. But yeah, heating the moment. He's had a daft moment, hasn't he? So
yeah, he's rapid, isn't he? Though he's so quick.
yeah, no, because people say, "Oh, he's 31." It's like as if you're north of 30 now. It's as if you're due for your pension. He's 31. He's still a young man, really. So he looks a fit lad, as you say. Loves getting forward when he can. Defends well one-on-ones from what I've seen so far. So. But he's going to spend a couple of weeks out of the team now, isn't he? So I'm sure we'll get onto who's going to be his replacement or formations in a bit, but he'll be a loss.
And what do you make of Sunderland's defensive setup? And do you think 3 at the back is a possibility? Because I know it sounds ridiculous, but I think 3 at the back for us, because of the threat we have with the long throw, it makes us more dangerous in attack. Like the set pieces, which obviously, we're going to Forest this weekend. We've got Man United after that. They are going to be how we score goals, aren't they? I doubt we're going to cut through a side in, pass, score. I think it's going to be more, we get a corner, we put 3 centre-backs up there. Granit Xhaka maybe up there, or Trey Hume, depending on which one's sitting in the corner. That, to me, is how we're going to score goals. And I think we saw at the weekend, the threat we had in the second half, I felt, going forward, actually came from the 3 centre-backs because they're so dangerous in the air. And Villa couldn't, for me, physically, we were the dominant team in that game. I felt Villa really struggled with us on that physical side of things. Could you see a world, especially with, we've seen Habib Diarra get out injured, Reinildo, he's going to be out for a few games. But do you see a world where maybe we do play 3 at the back, particularly away from home?
I think it's something he might have a look at over the next few days. I think, as you say there, if we're not creating too many opportunities, I just mentioned in open play going forward, especially away from home, then as you said there at the weekend, we messed Villa about, and obviously looking at the goal we scored, sort of second, third phase, wasn't it? And it's popping around, and Xhaka obviously cushions it for Wilson to tuck it away. But then you've got Alderete, you've got Dan Ballard, Mukwele, 3 aggressive lads who are going up for set pieces. Xhaka, 6'3", 6'4" as well, isn't he? Wilson's at 6 foot plus. So you've got good height throughout the team there. So yeah, by all means, if you're getting corners or Mukwele slinging the ball in the box there, we've got good height advantage more often than not against some of the opposition. So I'm sure it's something they're going to weigh up. But he might also think, because I think generally he prefers a 4-3-3, but then who slots in at left back? And obviously Arthur Masuaku's there. People have talked about you can take Trey Hume across it. I'd rather keep Trey there. I don't want to, he's generally right-footed, isn't he? So I think who've you got a left-sider on that to come in for Reinildo to play on that left-hand side. So Masuaku would naturally be the one to come in there, but he might look at it and think, well, Dan Ballard was excellent when he come on at the weekend. He could shift Alderete out there with his left foot, couldn't he? Have a game or two at left back. I think he's he's capable. He looks a fit lad. He can get up and down. He's comfortable on the ball. So it's something there. I'm sure there's a couple of discussions going on in the office, but ultimately it'll come down to Regis to make that decision on Friday.
Yeah, that's hard, isn't it? Because I look at that defense now and I'm like, well, I love Ballard and he feels like he's taking his game up a level. He looks bigger and stronger than what he's ever been. We saw that in the playoffs as well. You look at McWhaley, who's been incredible at centre back. You can't really take him out. Alderete has been rock solid, but he also plays on the left side. So I doubt he's going to come out. Hume, I get why people want to move to left back, but I agree with you. You play the players in their best positions. You don't play them out there. And then Masuaku, you've brought him in. Imagine saying to him, oh, no, you're not playing at left back when the vacancy's there. We're going to put my right back there. That feels like a hard conversation. But my issue is I want to see Ballard in the team. I want to see McWhaley in the team. And I want to see Alderete in the team. And that can't happen unless you shift to a 3 at the back. Or you drop Trey Hume and maybe put McWhaley at right back. Or you do putting the Hume on the other side and doing that.
Right.
It's hard, isn't it?
So go on then. So say he goes with a 3. So if you go 3-5-2. So I think you want to keep, rather than a 3-4-3, go 3-5-2, because you got that midfield 3 where we've been pretty decent. We've had good energy in there. So you probably go your back 3, as you've mentioned there. Trey Hume is your right wing back, more than capable. He can get up and down, puts a decent ball in. Probably Masuaku on the left if you want to go for balance with his left foot. I know Talby came across at the weekend, but naturally he's right-footed. Your midfield 3, Xhaka sitting, Siddiqui, and probably Chris Frigg or Enzo, so he's a choice to make there, because obviously if you're taking Enzo off that left hand side of the front 3, and then you go with probably your front 2, don't you, of Isidore and maybe Mayenda or Robbie. So there's probably 8 or 9 positions there which are nailed down. Then there's 1 or 2 you're thinking who goes into one of those positions really. But yeah, that's something I'm sure, as you say, their discussions will be going on. They'll, as I said, they're Friday in training. They'll probably look at 1 or 2 things, then name the team, so the lads know what they're looking at. And if you are going to a 3, because I've played in both, people say, oh, you can adjust. Yes, you can adjust, but playing as an outside left centre back is different from playing in a 2 in a pair of centre backs, and then obviously if you're playing in a wing back as well, it's different to playing as a full back. So it's knowing your roles and then looking at what Forest are going to do. Because I think, you look at Ange Postecoglou when he was at Spurs, he preferred playing with a 3, but I think he's gone in there and he's kept it at a 4-2-3-1. So you've got to look at what the opposition are doing as well.
Yeah, it's interesting with Tottenham, with Forest, because you don't know with Ange. Like, he obviously has a reputation of Ange ball, which is, very high pressing, aggressive, high line, all that, which feels like it should play in our hands. It should. If they're going to play a high line and really push, and then we've got a player like Isidore or Mayenda or both hitting them on the break, that feels like it would be ideal. But the other thing is that also has given Forest a lot of territory, and the more territory you give a team, the more they're going to create, the more their chances they're going to have in the game. Even though that people don't like playing against that defensive, low block, as they call it in this stage. Teams don't like playing against that, but surrendering possession isn't always an answer just because you want to play on the counter attack, is it?
No, it's not. No, as you say, he's coming from where they were under Nuno, where I think last season they had the 2nd or 3rd lowest possession in the league, Forest. But look where they finished up, just missed out on the Champions League, didn't they? And then Ange's come in. I think he likes to try and dominate the ball, and rather than what they were sitting off teams, as you say, in that low block, now all of a sudden he's come in there, and the players aren't daft. They know what he's all about. They'll have played against his Spurs side last season. And then the first 15, 20 minutes, they're at it, pressing in your face. So how do we go about it? I think if you're looking at, mentioned about possession, I think we had 29% at the weekend against Villa. It's a bit of a false one, obviously, because we had 10 men for 60-odd minutes of the game. But the game in which we've had the highest possession was away at Burnley. So we had a lot of ball there. So you're now saying, does it suit us having a lot of the ball? Because I think we had 59% of the ball at Burnley. We got beat 2-0 and didn't really create too many opportunities with it. So I think you're looking at us, we're probably suited more to being an out of possession side at times, although we are comfortable on the ball. But if you're going to play like that and you're going to sit deep, then obviously he's going to have to select a team where probably Mayenda might come in, as you say, he's our quickest player on the counter attack. Wilson's capable as well, playing on the shoulder and getting in behind. So it's something he's going to have to weigh up and say, do you know what, we're going to have to, we may go to the City ground and have 30% of the ball at the weekend, but we need to make sure when we secure possession, we get 2 or 3 passes in and we break with a little bit of pace as well, where they're pressing 7, 8 bodies out of their shape, in our half of the pitch. Now can we go and counter attack and get an opportunity within 10 seconds or so.
And what about goal scoring? Because I think that's my main concern this season. And I've been a little bit critical. Habib Diarra, to me, is meant to be the link up between the midfield and the attack. And I've been a little bit sort of frustrated that he hasn't done enough of that. We've seen glimpses of it, but I felt like in particularly Palace away, he wasn't doing enough to connect the midfield and the attack. And it feels like particularly away from home, there's a large disconnect between that strong defensive midfield and our attacking players. We don't seem to have that connection there. Are you concerned about goals in this team? Do you think that we've got enough to score probably the 45 to 50 you need to stay up in the Premier League? Because that is the one thing I look at all the newly promoted teams, actually. I don't think Leeds do. I think they're going to struggle to score goals this season. I think Burnley will struggle to score goals. That's the one area I'm just a little bit worried about with this team. Do you think there is enough going forward?
No, I agree. I know obviously Wilson's sat on 3, isn't he? Mendo's got 1. I think in terms of open play and creating opportunities, I think we need more from the wingers. So Talby's playing on that right-hand side, back himself a little bit more, with just shift it a yard and put balls into the box. And then obviously on the left-hand side, Adingra hasn't played in the last couple, has he? He's come out. He's not quite got going yet, I would say. Obviously Enzo's come onto that left-hand side and give us a little bit more against Brentford a couple of weeks back. So it is a concern, of course it is. Yeah, as I said, they're going away from home. We haven't scored yet in those 2 games. So going down to the City ground, can we change that really? And then you're looking at, you don't want to be heavily reliant on set pieces. I know it's obviously sort of a weapon you can have in your armory with the big lads going forward, and they've got a chip in throughout the course of the season as well. Dan Ballard might get you 3 or 4 goals, Mukwege as well, and Alderete hit the bar at the weekend, didn't he, against Villa? So I'm sure they're going to contribute. And then, as you said there, Diarra and Siddiqui, because they're generally playing as your 2-8s, aren't they? Just in behind the strikers, and the connection's got to be there. Whether it's Wilson, Isidore, or Mayenda, they can't be 30, 40 yards. If the ball's going up, he needs that support. So they've got to, like Job did really. Job was good, wasn't he? Especially last season, that box-to-box midfielder with his energy, making the yardage up and getting into the box at times. I think you look at Diarra, was it the first game, wasn't it, West Ham, where he almost scored, didn't he, early on? Good save from Hermanson. But I'm sure they'll contribute as well. Siddiqui, at the weekend, he was getting himself into the box in the second half, just looking for that, get that first goal, settle them down a little bit, and hopefully they can chip him with a few. And then maybe Granit Xhaka with a couple of 35-yarders.
Yeah, we've not seen that yet, really. We've not seen him have a proper goal from range, which I'm looking forward to.
He had that one at the weekend, didn't he, where we nicked it high up the pitch there. We were pressing, and he didn't quite catch it flush, did he? Sort of choked it a little bit. It was comfortable for Martinez.
He did that at Burnley as well. He had one where he dragged it wide, where he was hoping for there. But you've been in really good Premier League teams and bad Premier League teams. What's the difference between a good Premier League team and a bad one? Because obviously, if you're in the Premier League, like that 5 or 6 team we had in the Championship was comfortably the best team. And then you get up to the Premier League, obviously the level goes up. I mean, those players are not bad players, and we saw, players like yourself who played in that 5 or 6 team then play in the Premier League for like 5 or 6 years after that and are fine. What's the difference in between a good one and a bad one?
I think it's consistency and confidence, momentum, all these things coming into it. And if you get off to a good start like the lads have, then obviously you're taking that confidence and the feel good factor from around the club moving forward. If we'd have started, because pressure was on early, because I think you look at the fixtures we had and everyone was saying, oh, we've got a good start on paper. But the other teams are going to be saying that because we're one of the new teams as well. Do you know what I mean? So, but then if we say those first 3 games, we pick up a point, all of a sudden it's like, well, this is going to be a long season. But we've had a good start to the season. Still early doors, and we haven't really played one of the big hitters so far. But you can only beat what's in front of you. So we've had a couple of good results so far, and we're in a good position. But then if it doesn't go to plan, and as you say, go back to that first season we got promoted, and we're not scoring goals, you're thinking, well, this is tough. Where's our first goal coming from? Where's our first win coming from? And then the games are ticking by, and all of a sudden you can't get out of single figures, as we were wheel spinning, weren't we, throughout the season? And it's hard. And two big words for me: momentum and confidence in football. And if you haven't got that, you're not going to win games of football. But these lads have got it this moment in time.
Yes, they do. So let's look ahead then. We've talked a little bit about Forest, but we've got Man United coming up as well away from home. And again, I look at the way Manchester United play under Ruben Amorim, and I know that they do create chances. I would say that about them, but they are open defensively. I mean, they look like a team that is conceding goals. They conceded 2 against Burnley earlier this season. And I just think that particularly that Man United away game, like, we are designed for those games where I think we're a transition team, aren't we? You touched on this before, but we're a team that is built to transition between defense, midfield, attack very, very quickly. And we're at our best when we're doing that very, very quickly. And to be honest, we've not really seen enough of that this season so far. But these 2 games in particular, I feel like are chances for us. But that Man United game, I'm almost licking my lips at that, thinking I know they'll have lots of chances, and it'll be probably potentially a bit of a basketball game in the sense that they're going to throw men forward and we'll have a chance to hit them on the break. Are you looking forward to seeing how we do in these 2 games? And do you think that's going to show us a bit more about what we actually are this season?
Yeah, certainly. I think, just as you mentioned there, Man United, that fear factor's gone, hasn't it? Well, it's not been there for a while now, but as you say, Amarin's come in there, struggled in the Premier League. He's got 29% win ratio so far in his United career. He's obviously adamant to stick with his formation, his 3-4-3. I've looked at it lots and thinking, I'd change that, I'd do this, as a lot of people have done as well. But he seems set in his ways. That's what he wants to go with. I think, as you say there, you look at them, middle of the park, 2-man midfield. I don't think they've got the legs in there, really. If he plays Casemiro in there, with R3 in there, as Newcastle, go back to when they played Newcastle last season, and with Newcastle's midfield 3, I think he took Xerxes off after 20 minutes because he realised we're getting overrun in the middle of the park. I think he had Ericsson and Casemiro as his midfield 2 up against Tonali, Bruno, and Joe Linton. So they got the run around. And he took Xerxes off. I think Mano came on, solved the problem a little bit for them. But I would look at it, and I'm sure Regis and the staff will, and think, well, we should have the energy and the legs in the middle of the park there. And as we say, higher up the pitch, can we cause them problems? Because in that back 3, as I say there, the 2 outside centre-backs don't want to get isolated too often, whether it's Mayenda or, Lefay, whoever it is, one-on-ones. They'll fancy themselves up against them. So, but they've obviously spent 200 million at the top end of the pitch in the summer. So, and Mbuemo, Cunha coming in, Ahmad, when he's at it, we know what he's all about as well. So they'll cause problems. And as you said, they have had a decent XG this season and created opportunities, but I think they also give up a lot of opportunities to the opposition as well. So yeah, it'll be an open game, I would imagine. We'll sit deep, but hit them on the counter attack when we can, and we will get opportunities.
Yeah, I actually saw earlier today that Ahmad's deleted all references to Man United off his social media today. So I don't know. Okay. Yeah. Not something I imagine Roy Keane would have stood for when you played. Yeah, putting that out there. What do you think about the overall standard of the Premier League this season? Because I look around right now, and I think Sunderland are better than some teams that I didn't think they would be. Like, obviously, Wolves is an obvious one. They've had a honking start the season. They look like, well, you don't often lose 5 games in a row to start the season and stay up.
Give your manager a new contract.
Yeah, and give your manager a new contract. But I think West Ham are poor. I think Brentford are pretty poor. Obviously, we've beat them already this season. Leeds and Burnley, I think we can be better than them. And I just sort of look at the league and think, do you know what? Maybe we are the 6th or 7th worst team in the league. I think that the standard of the Premier League has maybe come down a little bit compared to last season.
Yeah, I wouldn't say we're the 6th worst team. I'd say we're the 12th best team. Let's be positive. No, yeah, of course you do. Yeah, you look at it, and you would have done at the start of the season as well, and you see all the business which is being done. Brentford obviously losing the manager, a couple of key players as well, moving on. Wisa obviously gone to Newcastle as well, and Mbuemo, as we said. So yeah, you're looking at them, probably thinking they might struggle a little bit this season. West Ham, Potter really didn't get them going last season, and that continued. And obviously we put 3 past them first game of the season, and then you're looking at the other ones, Wolves as well. So yeah, there's a pool there, and the 2 teams that come up with us. I think Leeds had a good result the other day, didn't they? But you don't know how they're going to go, because they like to play a little bit more expansive than perhaps what we will. Taking a step into the Premier League under Farker, he probably thinks, well, that's the way I play. We might lose a few games, but I'm going to stick to my guns. So you just got to keep plugging away. As I say, I think we've got a bit of respect. You can see it in the opposition. Yeah, you look at Villa at the weekend. Got European football again this season, but they've had a stinking start themselves. As you said, hadn't scored a goal until the weekend, and then the right back has to pop up for them. Ollie Watkins, didn't really notice him on the pitch, did we? But just in possession as well, I think you look at the opposition. I think they're a good football inside Sunderland, so we're getting a little bit of respect as well. And moving forward. The boys, as I said earlier on, will be confident stepping out onto the pitch as a group, and obviously the recruitment team have got the bodies into the building, which has obviously helped the younger boys as well. And teams, and it was a lot of pundits and media outlets at the start of this season would have had us as one of the favourites to go down, but then all of a sudden, once the bodies started to come into the building, they're saying, you know what, Sunderland aren't a bad team; they might do all right this season. So let's not get ahead of ourselves. There's still a long way to go, but we've had a decent enough start.
Yeah, it's hard for me to not get ahead of myself because I wasn't expecting it to look as comfortable. I think is probably the word is what we have.
Yeah.
We've got some questions anyway to finish off with, and then I'll let you go and enjoy the rest of your evening. So the first one is were you ever called up to play up front for Brazil, and also where does the chant come from? So do you know the answer to the second part of that?
Well, I know the answer to the first part. Yeah, no, I didn't. I was cup tied with Wales, so I couldn't make it. I don't know where the chant come from. I'd love to meet the person. I think, where did you come up with that from? Yeah, so it's a bizarre one, isn't it? Listen, it's nice to have a song in a way, isn't it? But it's a strange one. But yeah, me boys have asked me about it because obviously they said, Dad, did you have a chant of a song when you were playing? I said, yeah. Well, what were the lyrics? So I've got to be careful because obviously at the end of the song it's a little bit. So I had to change that. But I don't know is the answer where it came from. So if the person's out there who's watching or gets wind of it, then let's have a chat and say, where did you come up with the song from? Yeah,
What's the weirdest place you've ever heard it? Have you ever been like walking somewhere and somebody started singing it to you?
Yeah, down at the playoff. Obviously, I was down with Frankie in the media team, so we done the game. Then we down in the media section there, down at Wembley, and then obviously getting the tube after the game. It was carnage, and then all the way on the tube down the station, everyone obviously. Few fans had a few drinks, hadn't they? But it was carnage. Obviously enjoyable in a way. But when I'm 45 and you've got grown men singing in your face, it's a little bit awkward as well. But it was all fun and games. Yeah.
You have any chants at any other clubs? Anyone else have a song for you, or just Sunderland?
No, just Sunderland. I think. Yeah, I'm not sure. One or two, maybe at Grimsby they picked up on it a little bit, and I could hear it down there. The chants,
okay.
I think they picked up on it. So, but yeah.
Okay. So we've had a question asking, did you ever suffer the wrath of Roy Keane?
Not really. No, I wasn't. There was other lads who were more his victims, I think. Off the top of my head, no. He'd come across in a bit of a jokey way, really. So, for instance, the one I remember is when I got player of the season. So we've obviously gone into the next season. I think we played Bolton away, and he's dishing it out at half time, and we weren't quite at it. And then he come out with something along the lines of a typical voice sort of banter, and he goes, and another thing, our left back got player of the season last year, so that says it all. As if like a fullback shouldn't get player of the season. Do you know what I mean? So at the time you got your head down, you're dying to have a bit of a laugh, and you're having a look around the lads and stuff, and trying not to laugh at each other. But you've obviously got the famous one with the Northampton one, wasn't it, in the League Cup where we were 2-0 down at the break, I think, and he's come in and he's absolutely teed off, but not so much at me, but just going around everybody, the hairdryer treatment that far off everyone's faces, and telling us in a not so nice way to liven up a little bit in the second half, which we managed to scrape through in the end. But he didn't come in after the game. So, but no, I got on well with Roy. I know you can speak to other lads who will maybe not say as much, but I think I played the most games for him at Sunderland, and I got on well with him. Used to have a game of cards on the bus, a few of us on the way down, but he just wanted the right things for the club. He'd come in and he wanted the lads to be at it in training, everything right, the food in the canteen, and just organisation for the away trips and everything really, and that professionalism with him, and nothing wrong with that.
Are you surprised with Roy Keane? There's a couple of things with him really that surprised me. Is one, his persona a little bit, where he had this obviously hard man persona, and he softened it quite a bit now. Like you see him doing some jokier things. He's on the overlap and all that stuff. But also, are you surprised he didn't do anything else in management after? Obviously, he went to Ipswich as well. But are you surprised that he didn't get back into management at any point?
Yeah, he went to Villa, didn't he? I think with Ireland as well as one of the assistants. But I just look at it from his point. Not saying he's got a nice cushy one at Sky and ITV, but I think he's a good pundit. I think obviously he's not daft as he knows his football, but as you said there with Micah and Carragher and the others, he has a little bit of banter as well, doesn't he? But I think everybody waits for him and anticipating when he's going to blow in the studio, and he's had a few of them this season. Generally with Man United, but that's the passion in him, isn't it? Really. So no, I'm not surprised really. I think sometimes I think I've seen him do the Gary Neville one, the overlap, isn't it, where he's on that walk with him and saying, I'd probably like to get back into management, but at the same time, I think he's got a decent job doing the punditry, hasn't he? And I think a lot of people enjoy him being on there, so hopefully he sticks to that.
Yeah, I'm the same. We've got another question. Do you prefer playing centre back or left back?
I didn't mind either. I think at Sunderland I was probably half and half. Stoke, I only played 2 games at centre back, only games at left back, and it's a different role, as I said earlier. Left back, generally, certainly in this day and age, you're asked to do a little bit more than just defend, aren't you? You're getting up and down that left hand side, especially if you've got an inverted winger playing in front of you, which we have over the last few seasons, really. Centre back's different. It's more so reading the game, getting in the right position, and obviously that comes that ability of seeing that when you've played a lot of games there and just having that sort of first 5 yards in the head, really, and getting in a good position. But I probably said I would prefer playing centre back. I like the physical challenge of it as well. As you mentioned earlier, those aerial duels and coming up against some lumps, the likes of Kevin Davis and John Carew and Fellaini, all these types of players. Well, yeah, the nose got done a couple of times off a couple of those. So, but I enjoy that side of the game, that physical side of it. And but at full back as well, you could put a challenge in like Trey Hume loves to.
And last one, who's the best Sunderland player you played alongside?
God, you know what? I've been asked this many a time, and the one I would say in terms of obviously playing alongside, I'd probably say I enjoy Johnny Evans. Coming as a young lad from Man United, just a bit of a Rolls Royce back there, wasn't he, Johnny? A young lad. I think he only played 30 odd games for us in the loan season. Then he came back, didn't he? I think the year after in the Premier League as well. But just obviously to see where he went on to as well, going back to United and then going elsewhere in Leicester and just I think even at 34, 35, he was still calm on the ball, 2 decent feet on him. So I would say Johnny defensively, and then higher up the pitch, I always say Steve Malbronk. But I was astonished, obviously, looking at Steve's stats. I've got it wrote down here. What did he play for us? 102 games. How many goals do you think he scored?
I know he scored 2, I think.
1, it says there, unless there was 1 in a cup.
One goal scored in a cup game. I think he scored against Barrow, maybe, in an FA Cup game. He scored against Hull, that screamer.
Yeah, I played it across to him. I can't
he got the assist.
Yeah, that's the assist, yeah, but I can't believe that was his own goal, as I say, for his ability. I'm not sure how many assists he had, but
look at his stats for Fulham.
Yeah.
And he's scoring 10 goals a season.
Yeah. So, you look at it and I think he should have done a lot more. You go back to Patrick Roberts last season and Patrick's ability. Did he get 2 goals last year? I think, and 1 was a penalty at Plymouth. Should be scoring more goals, and you would say that was Steed, but just Steed's general game, close control, skill, ability, fantastic player. Didn't speak a word really. Just you're lucky if you got a bonjour or a good morning at the training ground, and just went about his business. But yeah, decent lad, quiet lad, but yeah, excellent and good on the training pitch as well.
Yeah, 60 minutes, wasn't he? 60 minutes, and that was him done.
Yeah, I think you like the Siggy as well, maybe.
Yeah, that's always the rumor.
Yeah. So I think that's probably why he only played 60 minutes.
Yeah, he played on though. I think he went into late 30s playing on in France.
Yeah.
So
saying that, Matthew Etherington did as well. I played behind Matty at Stoke, and one of the fittest lads I played with. But he liked the cigarette as well and the beer, but could go out and do the bleep test and run all day so.
Yeah, it's strange how it works.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Danny, for coming on today. It's been a pleasure talking as always. This is a stark contrast to when we did that. I think it was Rochdale away, didn't we? We went together about what year was that? 2018, something like that.
Yeah, will have been something like
that. It was a Tuesday, I think.
It was
a Tuesday night, and I think did we win? I think we did win.
Did we draw? McGeady scored, and it was a draw. Was it 2-2 or 2-1? 1-1 was it?
Maybe. I'm gonna have to Google it quickly.
Yeah, I think McGeady scored, did he not? Or Charlie White?
Let's have a look. Sunderland Rochdale 2019. Let's have a look, see what comes up. Apparently it was August 2019 and we won 2-1, and McGeady and Charlie White scored. So there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, good memory.
I'm like a young Rob Mason.
That's what you're aspiring to be, Rob Mason.
Well, yeah. I'll have a book like you out soon.
Yeah, do that. Yeah. We've got a book coming out, so there we go. I'll put the link in the description for that. Thanks for the late plug there. And everyone, thanks for watching. please comment, subscribe, and whatnot. And I'm sure we'll have Danny back some point in the future, and hopefully you'll be back on everyone's airwaves soon, doing whatever you're going to do in the future.
Okay, mate. Enjoyed it. Thanks.